How's it going, everybody? We are back, episode 12. Yeah, I know it's been a little minute, and I've been away for a little while. Sometimes you got to go and, step away from some things and get yourself together. So I hope that those of you who've been following along, that you continue to follow along, and that you also understand that sometimes people, have to take a little break from things. So, last episode, we stopped at Exodus 10. And, we got to where Moses was talking to Pharaoh. And Pharaoh told Moses, no, he's not letting these people go. So that's where we back at. So if you're continuing on from the last episode, we are back still dealing with Pharaoh's, not letting Moses get his people. So I pray that all of you guys have been well and taken care of. And if you have been going through some things, I hope that you've been praying, because, pray without works, it's nothing. So keep your faith, continue to pray. But you can't worry and pray, all right? Worrying and praying doesn't go hand in hand. You either got faith in God or you don't. But if you struggling, that's what we're here for. That's what Ways Unity is about, bringing all of us together so that we can walk this journey and build a relationship with God. So with that being said, we're going to say my favorite prayer, the Lord's Prayer. Let's do it. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive our trespasses, and we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. All right, guys. I'm glad y'all here. Let's get straight to it. Reading the whole Bible, episode 12. Let's go. All right, so, I got to change my translation right quick before we get to it. I like to read the Legacy Standard Bible. And the reason why I like to read that translation is because they actually are saying God's name, Yahweh. And we got to be careful while we're on this subject right quick. I want y'all to be careful when people say God, all right? Because a lot of people say they believe in God, but you don't know which God they talking about. So sometimes you got to say, you talking about the God of Abraham, the God of Jacob, the God of Isaac. You talking about Yahweh. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you got to be very specific of who people are saying when they say God, all right? So that's why I read the Legacy Standard Bible, because I like to hear myself say God's name. You know what I mean? But you can read whatever translation works for you. I'm just telling you what I read and why my purposes of reading that translation. But here we go, y'all. Exodus chapter 11, verse 1. Then Yahweh said to Moses, one more plague I will bring on Pharaoh and on Egypt. After that, he will let you go from here. When he lets you go, he will surely drive you out from here completely. Speak now in the hearing of the people, so that each man may ask from his neighbor, and each woman from her neighbor, for articles of silver and articles of gold. And Yahweh gave the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians. Moreover, the man Moses himself was very great in the land of Egypt, both in the sight of Pharaoh's servants and in the sight of the people. So Moses said, thus says Yahweh, about midnight I am going out into the midst of Egypt, and all the firstborn in the land of Egypt shall die, from the firstborn of the Pharaoh who sits on his throne, even to the firstborn of the servant girl who is behind the millstones, and all the firstborn of the cattle. Moreover, there shall be a great cry in all the land of Egypt, such as there has not been before, and such as shall never be again. But for any of the sons of Israel, a dog will not even bark, whether against man or beast, that you may know how Yahweh makes a distinction between Egypt and Israel. Then all These your servants will come down to me and bow themselves before me, saying, Go out, you and all the people who follow you, and after that I will go out. And he went out from Pharaoh in hot anger. Then Yahweh said to Moses, Pharaoh will not listen to you, so that my miraculous wonders will be multiplied in the land of Egypt. Now Moses and Aaron did all these miraculous wonders before Pharaoh, yet Yahweh hardened Pharaoh's heart with strength, and he did not let the sons of Israel go out of his land. So, chapter 11 is about this being the last plague. All right, this plague right here is God saying this is going to be the one that breaks Pharaoh down. So, pretty much every firstborn of everything in the land of Egypt is going to be gone. We talking about sons, even down to the cattle. All right, God taking out everything that's dealing with the firstborn. Okay, so let's see how Pharaoh, you know what I'm saying? Let's see how Pharaoh handled this. All right, Exodus 12, verse 1. Now Yahweh said to Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, this month shall be the beginning of the months for you. It is to be the first month of the year to you. Speak to all the congregation of Israel, saying, on the 10th of this month, they are to each one take a lamb for themselves, according to their fathers' households, a lamb for each household. Now, if the household is too small for a lamb, then he and his neighbor nearest to his house are to take one according to the number of persons in them. According to what each man should eat, you are to apportion the lamb. Your lamb shall be a male without blemish, a year old. You may take it from the sheep or from the goats, and you shall keep it until the 14th day of the same month. Then the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall slaughter it at twilight. Moreover, thou shalt take some blood of the blood and put it on the two doorposts and on the lintel of the houses in which they eat it. And they shall eat the flesh that night, roasted with fire, and they shall eat it with unleavened bread and bitter herbs. Do not eat any of it raw or boiled at all with water, but rather roasted with fire, both its head and its legs, along with its entrails. And you shall not leave any of it over until morning. But whatever is left of it until morning, you shall burn with fire. Now, you shall eat it in this manner, with your loins girded, your sandals on your feet, and your staff in your hand. And you shall eat it in haste. It is the Passover of Yahweh. And I will go through the land of Egypt on that night, and will strike down all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and beast, against all the gods of Egypt. I will execute judgments. I am Yahweh. And the blood shall be a sign for you on the houses where you are. And I will see the blood, and I will pass over you. And there shall be no plague among you to destroy you when I strike the land of Egypt. Now let's pause right there right quick at verse 13. So what's about to happen is God is giving Moses and Aaron instructions to give to their people to pretty much, take blood from a lamb and put it on their doorstep. So when God comes to strike Egypt, that he doesn't strike his own people. So he's giving these instructions. It's called a Passover, so that his people can be protected. So that's what that was about. Let's keep going. Verse 14. Now this day will be a memorial to you, and you shall celebrate it as a feast to Yahweh. Throughout your generations, you are to celebrate it as a perpetual statute. 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread, And on the first day you shall remove leaven from your houses. For whoever eats anything leavened from the first day until the seventh day, that person shall be cut off from Israel. Now on the first day, there should be a holy convocation, and on the seventh day, there should be a holy convocation for you. No work at all shall be done on them, except what must be eaten by every person. That alone may be done by you. You shall also keep the feast of unleavened bread. For this very day I brought your hosts out of the land of Egypt. Therefore you shall keep this day throughout your generations as a perpetual statute. In the first month, on the 14th day of the month at evening, you shall eat unleavened bread until the 21st day of the month at evening. 7 days there should be no leavened bread found in your houses. For whoever eats what is leavened, that person shall be cut off from the congregation of Israel, whether he is sojourner or a native of the land. You shall not eat anything leavened in all your places of habitation. You shall eat unleavened bread. Then Moses called for all the elders of Israel and said to them, bring out, take for yourselves lambs according to your families, and slaughter the Passover lamb. You shall take a bunch of hyssop and dip it in the blood which is in the basin, and touch some of the blood that is in the basin to the lintel and the 2 doorposts. None of you shall go outside the doorway of his house until morning. And Yahweh will pass through to smite the Egyptians. And he will see the blood on the lintel and on the 2 doorposts. And Yahweh will pass over the doorway and will not allow the destroyer to come into your house to smite you. And you shall keep this event as a statute for you and your children forever. And it will be when you enter the land which Yahweh will give you, as he has promised, you shall keep this new slavery. And it will be when your children say to you, what is the meaning of this new slavery to you? That you shall say, it is a Passover sacrifice to Yahweh, who passed over the houses of the sons of Israel in Egypt, when he smote the Egyptians, but delivered our homes. And the people bowed low and worshiped. Then the sons of Israel went and did so, just as Yahweh had commanded Moses and Aaron, so they did. Now it happened at midnight that Yahweh struck all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, from the firstborn of Pharaoh who sat on his throne to the firstborn of the captive who was in the dungeon, and all the firstborn of cattle. Then Pharaoh arose in the night, he and all his servants and all the Egyptians, and there was a great cry in Egypt, for there was no home where there was not someone dead. Then he called for Moses and Aaron at night and said, rise up, get out here from among my people, both you and the sons of Israel, and go. Serve Yahweh as you have spoken. Take both your flocks and your herds as you have spoken, and go and bless me also. Let's stop right there. So now Pharaoh looking like, yo, man, out of all these things that Moses and Aaron done showed you, it took for God to kill, for you to finally wake up. All them other miracles that we done seen, why do you have to let it go that far? But hey, God did that to show for a greater purpose. Let's keep going. And the Egyptians strongly pressed the people to send them out of the land in haste, for they said, we will all be dead. So the people took up their dough before it was leavened with their kneading bowls, bound it up in the clothes on their shoulders. Now the sons of Israel had done according to the word of Moses. They had asked from Egyptians for articles of silver and articles of gold and clothing. And Yahweh had given the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians, so that they let them have what they asked. Thus, they plundered the Egyptians. And the sons of Israel journeyed from Ramses to Succoth, about 600,000 men on foot, aside from the little ones. A foreign multitude also went up with them, along with flocks and herds, a very large number of livestock. And they baked the dough which they had brought out of Egypt into cakes of unleavened bread. For it had not become leavened, since they were driven out of Egypt and could not delay, nor had they prepared any provisions for themselves. Now, the time that the sons of Israel lived in Egypt was 430 years. Ooh, that's a long time to be slaved up, man. 430 years. And it happened at the end of 430 years, to the very day that all the hosts of Yahweh went out from the land of Egypt. It is a night to be kept for Yahweh for having brought them out from the land of Egypt. This night is for Yahweh to be kept by all the sons of Israel throughout their generations. So real quick, I just want to say something. Like, when people be wondering, like, man, if your God is so real, then why hasn't he did this for you yet or whatever? Yo, these people had to wait 430 years. Our timing is not the same timing as God's timing. And hey, whether it happens this year or 400 years from now, you know, whether our generation see it or the generations under us see it, we all have to keep our faith for the greater good of God. You know what I'm saying? Like, sometimes we have to sacrifice for the ones beneath us. When I say beneath us, I'm talking about your descendants. So just like we got grandparents and great-grandparents that, you know, fought for us during the Civil War here in America, if you're listening in America, you know, where we were segregated from a lot of things. We got people like Martin Luther King Jr., you know, who fought for us, you know, and people before them, you know, slavery, you know what I mean? So it's like, we had Civil War going on. So without the Civil War, a lot of us from the South, and I don't know who all listening that's from the South, but I'm from the South. I'm from South Carolina, man. The Civil War helped us out. But anyway, let's keep going. All right, verse 43. And Yahweh said to Moses and Aaron, this is the statute of the Passover. No foreigner shall eat of it, but every man's slave purchased with money after you have circumcised them, then he may eat it of it. A foreign resident or a hired person shall not eat of it. It shall be eaten in a single house. You shall not bring forth any of the flesh outside of the house, and you shall not break any bone of it. All the congregation of Israel shall celebrate this. But if a sojourner sojourns with you and celebrates the Passover to Yahweh, let all his males be circumcised, and then let him come near to celebrate it. And he shall be like a native of the land, but no uncircumcised person may eat of it. The same law shall apply to the native as to the sojourner who sojourns among you. So all the sons of Israel did as Yahweh had commanded Moses and Aaron. Thus they did. And on that same day, Yahweh brought the sons of Israel out of the land of Egypt by their hosts. So that's chapter 12. Chapter 12, finally, the people of Israel is out of Egypt. Finally. All right, guys, let's keep going. Chapter 13. Verse 1. Then Yahweh spoke to Moses, saying, sanctify to me every firstborn, the first offspring of every womb among the sons of Israel, both of man and beast. It belongs to me. And Moses said to the people, remember this day in which you went out from Egypt, from the house of slavery. For by a strong hand Yahweh brought you out from this place, and nothing leavened shall be eaten. This day in the month of Abib, you are going out. And it shall be when Yahweh brings you to the land of Canaanite, the Hittite and the Amorite, the Hivite and the Jebusite, which he swore to your fathers to give you, a land flowing with milk and honey, that you shall do this service in this month. For 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread, and on the seventh day there shall be a feast to Yahweh. Unleavened bread shall be eaten throughout the 7 days, and nothing leavened shall be seen among you, nor shall any leaven be seen among you in all your borders. And you shall tell your son on that day, saying, it is because of what Yahweh did for me when I came out of Egypt. And it will be as a sign to you, or your hand, and as a memorial between your eyes, that the law of Yahweh may be in your mouth. For with a strong hand Yahweh brought you out of Egypt, and therefore you shall keep the statute at its appointed time from year to year. And it will be when Yahweh brings you to the land of Canaanite, as he swore to you and to your fathers, and it gives it to you, and you shall devote to Yahweh the first offspring of every womb, and the first offspring of every beast that you own. The males belong to Yahweh, but every first offspring of a donkey you shall redeem with the lamb. But if you do not redeem it, then you shall break his neck, and every firstborn of men among your sons you shall redeem. And it will be when your son asks you in time to come, saying, what is this? Then you shall say to him, with a strong hand Yahweh brought us out of Egypt from the house of slavery. And it happened when Pharaoh hardened his heart with stiffness about letting us go, that Yahweh killed every firstborn in the land of Egypt. But the firstborn of men and the firstborn of beasts, both the firstborn of men and the firstborn of beasts. Therefore I sacrifice Yahweh the males, the first offspring of every womb, but every firstborn of my sons I redeem. So it will be as a sign on your hand, as, I don't know this word, phylacteries between your eyes, for with a strong hand Yahweh brought us out of Egypt. Pillars of cloud and fire. All right, verse 17. Now it happened that when Pharaoh had let the people go, God did not guide them by the way of land of the Philistines, even though it was near, for God said, lest the people change their minds when they see war and return to Egypt. Hence God turned the people to the way of the wilderness, to the Red Sea, and the sons of Israel went up in battle array from the land of Egypt. And Moses took the bones of Joseph with him, for he had made the sons of Israel solemnly swear, saying, God will surely take care of you, and you shall bring up my bones from here with you. Then they set out from Succoth and camped in Etham on the edge of the wilderness. And Yahweh was going before them in the pillar of cloud by day to guide them on the way, and in a pillar of fire by night to give them light, that they might go by day and by night. He did not take away the pillar of cloud by day, nor the pillar of fire by night from before the people. So that's chapter 13. So now Moses is now leading the people away from Egypt. God got his ways of giving them the directions. They got the cloud for the day and the fire for the night. And before they left out of Egypt, they took Joseph's bones, because Joseph was like, hey, before I die, God gonna take care of y'all. So when that happens, make sure you take me with you. So now they're on their way to the land that God promised. Now, as far as that ritual, somebody might need to educate me on this. I ain't never heard, at least growing up in church, we never did, this ritual, the 7 days of not eating leavened bread. So if anybody is familiar with this, if your religion, does this, comment. Let us know how that goes. So I want to know a little bit more about that. Probably have to do some research later on to figure out, how does that go? But anyway, guys, chapter 14, let's get it. Verse 1. Now Yahweh spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to the sons of Israel so that they turn back and camp before Phi-haroth, between Migdol and the sea. You shall camp in front of Baal-Zephon, opposite it, by the sea. And Pharaoh will say of the sons of Israel, They are wandering in confusion in the land. The wilderness has shut them in. Thus I will harden Pharaoh's heart with strength, and he will pursue them. And I will be glorified through Pharaoh and all his army, so that the Egyptians will know that I am Yahweh. And they did so. Then the king of Egypt was told that the people had fled, and the heart of Pharaoh and his servants were changed toward the people. And they said, What is this we have done, that we have let Israel go from serving us? So he made his chariot ready and took his people with him. And he took 600 choice chariots and all the other chariots of Egypt with officers over all of them. And Yahweh hardened the heart of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, with strength, and he pursued the sons of Israel. As the sons of Israel were going out with an exalted hand, then the Egyptians pursued them with all the horses and chariots of Pharaoh, his horsemen, and his army, and they overtook the camping by the sea, beside Pharoth and in front of Baal-Zephon. Now Pharaoh drew near, and the sons of Israel lifted up their eyes, and behold, the Egyptians was marching after them, and they became very afraid. So the sons of Israel cried out to Yahweh. Then they said to Moses, It is because there were no graves in Egypt that you have taken us away to die in the wilderness. What is this you have done against us in bringing us out of Egypt? Is this not the word that we spoke to you in Egypt, saying, Leave us alone, that we may serve the Egyptians? For it would have been better for us to serve the Egyptians than for us to die in the wilderness. But Moses said to the people, Do not fear. Stand by and see the salvation of Yahweh, which he will accomplish for you today. For the Egyptians whom you have seen today, you will never see them again forever. Yahweh will fight for you, and you will keep silent. Then Yahweh said to Moses, Why are you crying out to me? Speak to the sons of Israel so that they go forward. As for you, raise up your staff and stretch out your hand over the sea and split it. And the sons of Israel shall go through the midst of the sea on dry land. As for me, behold, I will harden the hearts of the Egyptians with strength, so that they will go in after them, and I will be glorified through Pharaoh and all his army, through his chariots and his horsemen. Then the Egyptians will know that I am Yahweh, when I am glorified through Pharaoh, through his chariots and his horsemen. Then the angel of God, who had been going before the camp of Israel, moved and went behind them. And the pillar of cloud moved from before them and stood behind them. So it became between the camp of Egypt and the camp of Israel. And there was the cloud along with the darkness, yet it gave light at night. Thus this one did not come near the other all night. Then Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and Yahweh swept the sea back by a strong east wind all night and made the sea into dry ground. So the waters were split. So the sons of Israel went through the midst of the sea on the dry land, and the waters were a wall to them on their right hand and on their left. Then the Egyptians pursued them, and all of Pharaoh's horses and chariots and horsemen went in after them into the midst of the sea. Then at the morning watch, Yahweh looked down on the camp of the Egyptians through the pillar of fire and cloud, and brought the camp of the Egyptians into confusion. And he caused their chariot wheels to swerve, and he made them drive with difficulty. So the Egyptians said, Let us flee from Israel, for Yahweh is fighting for them against the Egyptians. Then Yahweh said to Moses, Stretch out your hand over the sea, so that the waters may come back over the Egyptians, for over their chariots and their horsemen. So Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and the sea returned to its normal state at daybreak, while the Egyptians were fleeing right into it. Then Yahweh overthrew the Egyptians in the midst of the sea, and the waters returned and covered the chariots and the horsemen. Even Pharaoh's entire army that had gone into the sea after them, not even one of them remained. But the sons of Israel walked on dry land through the midst of the sea, and the waters were a wall to them on their right hand and on their left. Thus Yahweh saved Israel that day from the hand of Egyptians, and Israel saw the Egyptians dead on the seashore. Then Israel saw the great hand which Yahweh had used against the Egyptians, and the people feared Yahweh, and they believed in Yahweh and his servant Moses. Now that is powerful. That is powerful. Now, some people probably wonder, like, man, God split the water? Well, why he can't do that for the people who going through tough times and all that now? Like I just said, man, they in previous chapters, it said 430 years these people suffered. For 430 years. So we don't know how long since then. A lot of people got, they calendars and, they got the BC and the AD and, to figure out, certain time frames and stuff like that. But I don't know God's clock. I don't think nobody on this earth knows God's clock. So just like Moses and them didn't know that God was going to do this, just like the Egyptians didn't know God would do this, I think personally, when the time comes, when God says he's ready to come get his people, it might not be like this. It might be just straight like the book of Revelations got it. I don't know. We don't know. But I want to be on the side with God, because I'm not trying to be no Egyptian or anybody who worship other gods and all that. I want to be on the side with Yahweh, who can split the water, and I can walk on the dry bottom of the land of the water. You know what I mean? That's whose side I want to be on. I don't know about you, but I hope that you listening, that you on the side with me. So let's keep going. Chapter 15. Then Moses and the sons of Israel sang this song to Yahweh and said, I will sing to Yahweh, for he is highly exalted. The horse and his rider he has hurled into the sea. Yah is my strength and song, and he has become my salvation. This is my God, and I will praise him. My father's God, and I will extol him. Yahweh is a warrior. Yahweh is his name. Pharaoh's chariots and his army he has cast into the sea, and the choices of his officers are sunk in the Red Sea. The deeps cover them. Then they went down into the depths like a stone. Your right hand, O Yahweh, is a majestic in power. Your right hand, O Yahweh, shatters the enemy. And in the greatness of your exaltation, you pull down those who rise up against you. You send forth your burning anger, and it devours them as a shaft. And at the blast of your nostrils, and the waters were piled up, the flowing waters stood up like a heap. The deeps were congealed in the heart of the sea. The enemy said, I will pursue, I will overtake, I will divide the spoil. My desire shall be fulfilled against them, and I will draw out my sword. My hand would disposes them. You blew with your wind. The sea covered them. They sank like lead in the mighty waters. Who is like you among the gods, O Yahweh? Who is like you, majestic in holiness, fearsome in praises, working wonders? You stretched out your right hand, and the earth swallowed them. And in your love kindness, you have guided the people whom you have redeemed. In your strength, you have led them to your holy habitation. The peoples have heard, they tremble. Anguish has seized the inhabitants of Philistia. Then the chiefs of Edom were dismayed. The leaders of Moab, trembling, seizes them. And all the inhabitants of Canaan have melted away. Terror and dread fall upon them. By the greatness of your arm, they are still as a stone. Until your people pass over, O Yahweh, and to the people pass over whom you have purchased. You will bring them and plant them in the mountain of your inheritance, the place, O Yahweh, which you have made for your inhabitant, the sanctuary, O Lord, which your hands have established. Yahweh shall reign forever and ever. For the horses of Pharaoh with his chariots and his horsemen went into the sea, and Yahweh brought back the waters of the sea on them. But the sons of Israel walked on dry land through the midst of the sea. And Miriam, the prophetess, and Aaron's sister, took the tambourine in her hand, and all the women went out after her with tambourines and with dancing. And Miriam answered them, saying to Yahweh, for he is highly exalted. The horses in his rider he has hurled into the sea. Yahweh sweetens the water. Then Moses had Israel set out from the Red Sea, and they went out into the wilderness of Shur. And they went 3 days in the wilderness and found no water. And they came to Marah, but they could not drink the waters of Marah, for they were bitter. Therefore it was named Marah. So the people grumbled at Moses, saying, what shall we drink? Then he cried out to Yahweh, and Yahweh showed him a tree, and he threw it into the waters, and the waters became sweet. There he set for them a statute and a judgment, and there he tested them. And he said, if you will earnestly listen to the voice of Yahweh, your God, and do what is right in his sight, and give ear to his commandments, and keep all his statutes, I will put none of the diseases on you, which I have put on the Egyptians, for I, Yahweh, am your healer. Then they came to Elim, where there were 12 springs of water and the 70 date palms, and they camped there beside the water. All right, that was chapter 15. Guys, that's the end of this episode, man. I'm glad you guys took time to listen. Like I said in previous episode, if you can, follow the Ways of Unity Instagram page at ways.of.unity. Follow this page on YouTube at Ways of Unity channel. You can find my personal Instagram page at Dom_Lee7, or look me up on Facebook at Dominique Lee, and wherever you listen to this podcast, if you just listening to the audio version, please follow that site. We on all streaming platforms: iHeart, Apple, Amazon, Spotify, Pandora, Google, wherever you listen to your podcasts, take the time to follow. All right. If you guys want to support, you can support, get a hoodie like this, Ways of Unity clothing brand at waysofunityclothing.com. Okay. That's how you can support. Other than that, just keep following God, guys. Stay prayed up. Continue to read your Bible, even when it's not with me. Like when I'm not doing this, I continue to read my Bible. I want you guys to do the same. Develop that personal relationship with God. Don't become dependent on somebody reading the Bible with you. It's fun to do it together, and we're going to continue to do it together. But I also want you to take the time to do it yourself as well. All right. So with that being said, today is Sunday for me. So whenever you read this, or not read this, but listen to this or watch this, I hope that you have a great evening or a great morning. All right? Y'all enjoy yourselves, man. Until next time, Ways of Unity, reading the whole Bible, episode 12. Peace.